How's it guys, this is Dayvy FPL and welcome back to another Fantasy Premier League video here on my channel. Now this video is going to be a little bit of a Q&A/tips video on the upcoming double game week 35 as well as the run into the end of the season as we are quickly approaching the finale to this 2018/2019 Fantasy Premier League season. So kind of narrowing down the game weeks to try and catch up in those mini leagues and on that overall rank. So hoping that some of this advice will help you guys in the future, and not even just for this season, maybe for next season as well. So over on Twitter, I asked you guys to reply to one of my tweets with questions and specifically tips that you want me to give you, not only for just this double game week 35, but also the run-in, as I said, to the finale of this Fantasy Premier League season. So let's get into it. Firstly, I know this will be the last one. I promise you the last notification of this. The Football Blogging Awards finals, as you know, I was one of the finals for Best Fantasy Football Creator. The voting ends on Sunday, so that's why this will be the last time for me to remind you guys. Thanks to all of you who have already voted. I know tons of you have been tweeting me and messaging me that you've already voted, so thanks a lot for that. But for those of you who have not yet voted and are kind of waiting for that last second to make your decision, I'm going to put the links down in the description. If you want to vote for me or any of the other fantasy creators, you can just hit on those links and go vote over there. Thanks a lot. So now, as I said, you guys sent me a lot of tweets and replies over at Twitter at DayvyFPL on things you want me to cover, and one of the most popular topics was this whole idea of how to try and rank up not only in your overall ranks but also in your mini leagues. And that's the first thing I want to kind of clarify with you guys, is that this is all dependent on how you want to play it. If you want to play it for an overall rank gain, or if you want to play it so that you can do your mini leagues and kind of hopefully maybe win them or catch up to a better position, this advice will all depend for that. The reason I'm saying is, for example, take the first point here, differentials. These are all dependent on your strategy kind of. A differential in your mini league might not be a differential overall. That's why I'm saying you must kind of decide what kind of strategy you want to go for, and then adapt these things to and these tips towards that. The reason I'm saying differentials, obviously, you know, if a player in your mini league or overall does not have the player you own and they do well, then you're going to be moving up in the ranks. So that's why I'm saying get those differentials in. Obviously, it might not be the best idea to go fully differential unless you're trying to catch up masses of space. I'm not saying drops your Sterlings, Agueros and Manes for cheaper options and maybe less owned options like, say, Sanchez from Man United, but that might be a good option if you're trying to catch up on some points. The second point is taking hits is okay. At this end of the season, I don't really like to take hits, mainly due to you don't have that many game weeks to make them up. But if you're in a position that you kind of have to take hits to get those players you want in, don't worry too much. I'm not talking about going crazy and taking your minus 32 hits and that kind of thing. But if it's a minus 8, a minus 16 maybe, I'd say maybe a minus 8 maximum, so that you can try and get those better players into your team, then I think that's okay. The third option is try and captain differential players whenever you can. We'll get later on in the video onto captaincy for this game week. I actually think that captaincy this game week is going to be very spread out. So for example, this game week you don't have to look for a major differential player, as I don't really think that many players are going to be captained over 50%. You're going to have your 25%ers, and that for captaincy isn't that bad. However, if you really want to make up some points, you can go for a really arbitrary pick and go for maybe someone that not everyone's looking at, and that could pay off. So basically, you just got to kind of assess how you want to play it. If you want to play it in a mini league, maybe look at your rivals and the players you want to catch up on and get different players to them, and kind of predict what they're going to be doing in terms of maybe you think they'll be captaining Aguero for sure, or maybe they've always have been captaining a certain team. Then you can look at that and then kind of differentiate your team to theirs, and hopefully you move up. Now, the other question that was kind of brought to me was picking players for this run into the end of the season. What kind of players are best according to each position? to kind of narrow it down, I didn't do it best players, mainly because I'm recording this before the Champions League fixtures tonight. Wednesday night, Man City play Spurs and Liverpool play Porto. Just timing, I have to record these videos before for the games. However, the lineups have been announced and Man City have gone full strength with Sterling and Aguero up front. And so have Spurs. Obviously, Harry Kane is injured, but I've kind of narrowed it down to the team specifically, so you can kind of factor in if injuries do occur, you can kind of still go for those specific teams. So in terms of defenders and goalkeepers, I've grouped them together as they both kind of achieve the same purpose. I've gone for your Liverpool players, your Southampton players, your Spurs players, and your Watford players. Mainly because Liverpool just have the best defense in the Premier League, so they have some nice fixtures coming up, so you're going to be wanting to have them in. Southampton because they are very cheap and they do have quite a nice double. Spurs because if you they also have nice fixtures, and if you're looking to fill that third Spurs spot with Harry Kane out, they provide good options there. And Watford just because of that very nice double game week coming up. Not too much towards the end of the season, however they are cheap enough so that you can bench them later on. In terms of midfielders, I've gone for Liverpool. Your Manes and your Salahs are going to be scoring very well against teams like Cardiff and Huddersfield in the future. Your Man Cities, just because of players like Sterling and De Bruyne hitting nice form. And your Spurs options. Obviously, your main Spurs attackers are going to be from your midfield now with Harry Kane injured. In terms of forwards, you can kind of predict this one. It's going to be Aguero and Jimenez. Obviously, Man City, I'm not kind of directing towards Jesus. Aguero is going to be your main man up front, and with Wolves, Jimenez is going to be your better option. Also comes in at quite cheap, so you can afford him. In terms of your third option for your forwards, it's kind of an open-ended question here. You can kind of go for anyone you want. Unfortunately, there's not too many great options up front in the cheaper bracket now with Troy Deeney red carded. You can go for someone like Danny Ings or Shane Long, or you can kind of go for a single game week player like Bournemouth. They have been doing very well in the last game week, obviously with that 5-0 victory over Brighton, and they do have a home match against Fulham coming up, which would be quite nice to get them in for. Now, this third point is the disaster recovery plan. This was actually the exact wording of one of the questions, I think, from Mohammed. He just said what to do about the disaster recovery plan. Obviously talking about this past game week that's happened, the Brighton double game week that is kind of going to be haunting us for seasons to come. That Duffy captaincy didn't look too great. This kind of question ropes in very nicely with the next question, which is what to do with your Brighton assets. So I'm just going to go over what to do after a bad game week. This could happen now from now to the end of the season, and it will definitely happen in seasons to come. So it's quite good to kind of think about it and process it. First thing is only regret decisions if they were against your gut decision. I'm just saying this is fantasy Premier League. It's one of the things that you kind of have to go with your gut. Your gut's the best thing to kind of make decisions, especially for oneself. You shouldn't be making decisions on other people. The second one is do not do any rage transfers. I know you're probably going to be wanting to get Duffy and Dunk straight out of your team, but maybe hold on to them and see what's happening with your other players. There could be some injuries before the deadline, so you want to kind of address your problem areas first. And then the third option is blame me. You can I don't really mind taking the blame. I prefer you to blame me than blame yourself and kind of get down on yourself and to get a negative impact to your fantasy style and just playing fantasy overall. So I really don't mind if you blame me for all your decisions, and yeah, just don't butcher me too much in the comments, but otherwise I'll take the blame. Now this question is going to be quite a highly asked question. It's what to do with your Brighton assets. So obviously this game week was very disappointing and Brighton looked to be completely out of it, might even be facing relegation towards the end of the season, so it seems to be jump ship on them, especially defensively. So the first option is the best case scenario is just to bench them. Obviously this does not work if you do have your bench boost and you want to play it, but if you don't have your bench boost, I would bench them for this game week if you have better options in your starting 11, and then just kind of assess them over that and see what you can be done with that. However, if you do have your bench boost and you're looking to play it in game week 35, then I think hits are perfectly acceptable. In this case, I'll be talking about probably a -4 if you have 2 assets that you want to transfer out. I don't think it is quite worth the -8 to transfer both assets if you have them defensively out. Just think that's a little bit too risky. I think a -4 to get both of them out is fine. And then the third thing is, please remember your future plans when transferring these players out. I'm saying this as you might be transferring out, say, Dunk instead of Duffy because you think Duffy has a better attacking return, but then you end up having a shortage of money for your Game Week 36 plans. So please just look at your future plans and then see if they fit in with transferring out whichever Brighton option you have. Now this is the best question and the most asked question this game week, is this whole idea of whether to play the bench boost chip or the triple captain chip. So this is quite a hard question to answer as it's very team dependent. So I'm going to try and make this as broad and general as possible so you can kind of address it towards your own team. So in my personal opinion, this is what I think. I think that captaincy this week is very open-ended. I think there are a lot of great options this week, and we'll talk about them soon. I just think that it's going to be quite hard to nail down a triple captain specific to this game week. I think that if you were to look at game week 36 to put in perspective, 100% you're going to be triple captaining one of the Liverpool assets. Whereas this week you could go for a variety of options. That could be an advantage as you have a lot of options to choose from, so there should be a lot of high point scorers, but I think to really get the most out of it, it's going to be quite tough. The second thing is the Brighton assets are making benches very weak due to them not having a very good double, and a lot of people having tripled up and doubled up on the Brighton defense. So for example, I have Duffy and Dunk. They will 100% not be in my starting 11. They'll be on my bench, and now I have this problem with not wanting to bench boost with those two on my bench and then them scoring 2 points each at the end of it. So I can perfectly understand why people are reconsidering the bench boost, and this brings on to my third point, that if you can make a decent bench with a -4 hit, then I suggest bench boosting. For me, that'll probably mean transferring out Deeney and probably one of Dunk or Duffy, and then I will have a decent bench. So I think the Deeney red card has hit a lot of FPL managers, as he was kind of our third striker, third budget striker, and we were going to use him on the bench boost. But right now I basically don't have 3 players on my bench. I have Lloris as the backup goalkeeper, which I'm sure he will get some nice points, so he's a good option for me. But then the other 3 are very poor. So I think that if I transfer out maybe 2 players, I can maybe get lucky with one Brighton clean sheet or something like that. So then I might be bench boosting with that. So as I said, it comes down to your team. As I said, you can do whatever you want and whatever suits your team better. I've seen a lot of teams that have a very good benches, so you could 100% be bench boosting then. But obviously, if you don't want to kind of rip up your team with hits, then probably triple captain, as the bench assets don't look that great this week. And there are some nice fixtures coming up in game week 36 and 37. So finally, these are one of the closing points. I do have a wildcard draft for those who asked for it. In terms of captaincy, I have 5 options here that I'm considering. Probably considering the top 3 in terms of Jimenez, Sterling and Aguero. I don't have money in my team right now, and I don't think I'm going to be captaining Son. So those top 3 are my options, but you can go for any of these. I do think these are the best options for this game week, so if you go for one of them, I'm sure you'll get quite a few points. So the first one is Jimenez. He has those very nice double fixtures at home against Brighton and Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken. Scores great at home and is on good form. Obviously this whole season he's been on good form, so looks a good option, mainly due to the fact that he is a set starter, so should be playing that 180 minutes over the double game week. So that's why everyone's kind of looking at him as he's not really a rotation risk at the moment. Then we have Sterling and Aguero. For me, Aguero kind of edges Sterling just because of his record against the top 6 teams, and as you know, Spurs and Manchester United are playing Man City in the double, so Both teams, I think, are going to be a little bit weakened after Spurs' Champions League game against Man City this week, and then Man United don't look good at all defensively, so can see Man City scoring in both those fixtures. So Aguero kind of edges it for me just because I think that he might be less of a rotation risk. I know Jesus is there, but Aguero seems to be the number one in terms of that team, so kind of edging Aguero a little bit. So for me, it's probably going to be between Jimenez and Aguero, but as I said, all are good options, and you can go for any of them. Finally, this is just a bit of a wildcard draft for those of you who want to use it. As you can see, I've gone for the double up Liverpool and double up Southampton defense. And then I've brought in Mane instead of Eriksen. However, you can go for Eriksen and then transfer De Bruyne to Mane. That's also a good option. And then if you have some money over, you can kind of upgrade Long. I just think that Shane Long is going to be playing in the double due to Danny Ings. He seems to have continuous injury worries, and Shane Long has been returning quite well in the past 2 fixtures, so I've opted for him just as that cheap option. I've also opted for him and the Southampton options as they are very cheap, so after you've used the bench boost, you can kind of leave them as bench fodder, and not too much of your budget is stuck in the defense and attack. So this is kind of the draft. I'm sure there's a lot of people that have better drafts than this, but this is just kind of what I came up with the knowledge that I have before the Spurs Man City game. So that's basically going to wrap up the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. The second video this week, so if you have not checked out the preview, you can go look at that. I'll leave it in the description, and also as a tag right now, or a card. Please like the video if you enjoyed it, and also subscribe if you are new or have not committed to the channel yet and just wanted to see what this channel is about. Hopefully you will continue to support the channel by subscribing. Otherwise, follow me at DayvyFPL on Twitter, and good luck for this upcoming double game week. I hope it's an absolute banger, and we're all sitting on 5 billion points by the end of it. But I'm going to be wrapping up right now. This has been DayvyFPL, and I'm out. Cheers, bye.